Welcome back to the UP Home Buyers Summit. And this is a free virtual conference for home buyers and sellers in the UP. And we've had several experts so far giving great information that will help you get the best experience out of your UP, either home sale or purchase. And I am so glad to welcome Stephanie Jones for our next session here. Stephanie is an associate realtor at Select Realty, and she's actually the only real estate educator in the UP. So thank you, Stephanie. Welcome. Oh, I think you're muted. Hold on. Let's get you unmuted here.
I think we're really lucky to have the ability to have education for our agents up here in Marquette. And with my involvement at both the state and national level, hopefully I bring a broader perspective to the agents that I get to teach. And today, more importantly, the actual consumer who can hopefully, I'm hoping for questions, so please do not hesitate to ask. But why do we do some of the things we do? And we often get lumped in with used car dealers who are some wonderful, lovely people. But almost every agent that we have has high ethical standards. It's one of the things that sets us apart from just a real estate licensee is our code of ethics. And so I thought today would be a great time to share with the public just some of the things that we can and can't do, and maybe why we don't do the things that they might want us to.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm so thrilled to have you here with this topic. And I know the title of your presentation is, what do you mean a realtor has ethics? And I love that because there's a lot of kind of, thoughts that some people have about realtors and what that is and what that means. And I loved it. I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say to set the record straight on what these ethics really are. And it really is what everybody should know if you're going to be buying and selling a home in Michigan, especially. So thanks again, welcome. And I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it.
Great. Well, I will say that our code of ethics, the Realtor Code of Ethics, is for all agents in the United States, and there are realtors that are in foreign countries as well. So our code of ethics is something that's been around for over 100 years. It sets us apart between a realtor and just a licensee. You do not have to be a realtor to sell real estate. A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors. We are a trade organization. We do a lot of lobbying. And one of the things that I'm most proud of as a member of the National Association of Realtors is I really believe that some of the things that we advocate, when we advocate for the ability to renew the flood insurance legislation at the national level, as Frida mentioned earlier. And that's the kind of thing that we need to be able to share with our clients. And what we do with our code of ethics is it's kind of the base of all our activities. Every agent gets code of ethics training every 3 years, and it's kind of how we live our lives. But a lot of agents don't say, I can't do that because of code of ethics. So I wanted to highlight for you just some of the things that we can and can't do. Our code of ethics, and I'm kind of passionate about it, so I know I can go too long, but our code of ethics is set up in 3 sections. And those sections are duties to our clients and customers, duties to just the general public, and duties to each other realtors. We have 17 articles in the code of ethics, and 1 through 9 are clients and customers. So the first question you might have is, what's the difference between a client and a customer? Well, a client is someone with whom we have a contract. If you are selling your house, your listing agent is the one you have hired to be your fiduciary and act on your behalf. So you are their client. If you are a buyer, and if you're a smart buyer, you have hired a buyer's agent who most of the time will get paid by the seller. So it's a very easy hire. You have hired a buyer's agent to act on your behalf and protect your interests. And so then you become their client. One of the things that agents may or may not do as correctly as I think they should, and the law thinks they should, but we are supposed to have our clients under contract, whether they're a buyer or a seller, have them under contract before the exchange of any confidential information. So oftentimes you start talking to an agent and they're talking about buyer agency and you have no idea what they're talking about, but you just know that they're going to work for you. The reason we talk about buyer agency right away is so that we can make sure to protect your confidential information. The confidential information part is very important. And sometimes sellers or buyers will get frustrated when you may have had a house listed before and it didn't sell and now it's on the market with another agent and you want to put an offer on it and you're asking your agent who used to represent the seller, well, you know, what's the lowest price they're going to take? Well, even if we knew, we can't tell you. That confidentiality extends in perpetuity. I call it Realtor HIPAA. I can't tell people who I'm working with as clients. And they get a little frustrated. Stephanie, who's buying that house next door to me? I can't tell you. It's Realtor HIPAA. And that is for the protection of the client. We tell our clients, don't put too much on Facebook. We don't want to give away your confidentiality and potentially impact your negotiating capacity. I'm not going to go through each individual article because, frankly, no one else is a code of ethics geek, but I want to highlight some of the things in some of the sections. We cannot be the ones to find out things about the house. That's why we tell you to hire Rich. I may have gone on hundreds of home inspections in my almost 30 years in real estate. But I can't tell you that that's a cracked truss in the roof. I am not a home inspector, contractor, and even if I was a home inspector or contractor, when I am wearing my realtor hat, that is the only thing that I can talk to you about. But I can say, you know, that roof looks wonky. I really think you should give UP Home Inspection a call and get your home inspection. We're going to make that a contingency of the sale. Now, right now in this hot market, as Frida talked about this morning, a lot of buyers are saying, what can I do to get the house? And one of the things is drop as many contingencies as possible, but that home inspection contingency is important for both the seller and the buyer. Courts have ruled, especially in Michigan, that if a buyer waives their home inspection with full knowledge, but then finds something wrong, they still can go back and potentially sue the seller. If they have had a home inspection and find something wrong, they have to go back and sue the home inspector. So that home inspection protects not just the buyer, but the seller as well. So I think a lot of people are starting to write contracts saying, we're going to have a home inspection, but we will not ask for anything from it. It's for informational purposes only, and only will we withdraw if there's something major found. And I think sellers should look at that as protection for themselves as well. We also can't be the one to discover those pertinent facts. It is not our job to move all the boxes in the basement to see if there was ever water in that corner. It is our job to point out the water that is there. We also can't disclose facts that aren't material. And a material fact we have to share. yes, that roof is leaking. The seller has said they have water in the basement. Those are material facts and we have to disclose them. In Michigan, if there has been a death in the house, if there has been a haunting in the house, those are not in Michigan deemed to be material facts. So I don't have to disclose those. Also, I'm not going to be the one that verifies though. I do think in 27 years, I've only been in one house that I am completely and totally sure was haunted, but does not have to be disclosed in Michigan. So that is something that's not our responsibility to find out. And if it is not a material fact, it's not something that we can be disclosing. Another article in those first articles to the clients and customers is we have to cooperate with other agents unless that cooperation is not in the client's best interest. And what that means is we agree to be part of the multiple listing system. Right now, I think there's sometimes sellers are finding, I don't want to be in that. I don't want all those showings. Can't you just be the one to sell it for me? And while that's a great concept, and if that is in the seller's best interest, there is additional forms that you can fill out to make that happen. But really what's in the seller's best interest is to have the most people see the home as quickly as possible. We're finding a lot of agents are listing a home, not allowing any showings until that listing starts, and then reviewing offers potentially 3 to 5 days later. This is really great for a seller that doesn't want to be bothered with all the showings that they're getting right now. We tell them, go to camp, go to a hotel for 3 days. Let's just get your house sold. And those things are things that we're doing to facilitate that cooperation between agents of different companies. One thing that we have to disclose, and oftentimes you'll have sellers that say, well, if you sell the house, will you do it for a cheaper commission? I do think we're one of the few industries that people will ask us to give up paychecks all the time. But we have to disclose if there's any sort of variable rate commission. So if the seller's agent says, sure, I will sell the house at X percent, and if I'm the one that is the one that brings in the buyer, I'll do it at X minus 2%. But that has to be disclosed to the public in the form of our stat sheet, because the consumer has a right to know if they are competing with any other offers, if it's a level playing field or not a level playing field. Right now, we're seeing sometimes sellers or listing agents aren't even wanting to be the ones that sell their own listings, because if you've got 7 offers and one of them is yours, it just becomes that much more frustrating trying to help your client, the seller, maneuver the whole multiple offer situation. We're getting calls from sellers who've watched enough HGTV that they think they can do it themselves. But at the time that they get it listed, they said, I accepted an offer, it was great, but then I've got 3 more offers and they're all better than the first offer, so I don't want to keep my first offer. Well, you did it without representation, and all I can tell you is you're bound to that first offer. So I think a good seller right now in this market is going to interview a couple agents. There are so many good agents to work with, but it is someone that you're hiring to do a job for you. So interview a couple people, see where they're telling you it should be priced. And I think we're all trying to do a really good job of pricing the homes competitively without inflating the market and letting the market come in where it's going to come in. So we have to disclose that dual rate commission in order for the consumer to have a level playing field. If we have any intention of purchasing or selling or have any connection to the property ourselves, we have to disclose that. That is both state law, but also code of ethics. Number 9 in the articles for the code of ethics is straight from statute of frauds, straight law. Everything we do has to be in writing. So a client might get frustrated when they call us and say, yep, the home inspection looks great, really happy with it. We're going to drop the home inspection contingency. And we say, okay, can you shoot me an email? Well, I just told you, but we need it in writing because everything we do within that whole chain of the purchase agreement has to be in writing because of statute of frauds and because of our code of ethics. Then we move into duties to the public. And first and foremost in our duties to the public is we don't discriminate. We treat everyone fairly and equally. If a client hires us and says they have an intention to discriminate, it is our responsibility to terminate that contract right there. We cannot be a party to any discrimination. And we have been above and beyond what is required for state laws in our discrimination practices on how we won't discriminate. And I think that we just need to remember the only discrimination we really can do is on whether or not someone can perform. So I can discriminate if someone can't prove to me that they can buy a house. So I don't care if you are purple, have 17 wives. I don't care what any of those things are. What I care about is, can I verify that you can get a mortgage, or can I verify that you have the cash to purchase? When you are working with an agent, that's one of the first questions they're going to ask. Another is, are you working with an agent? And we'll get to that in a few more codes. 11, Article 11 says that we have to be competent in what we're doing. Now, I've heard the stories of agents that weren't competent, but for the most part, once agents have become licensed, when they have good broker support, they are pretty much ready to help you buy and sell a residential home. What they may not be ready to do is a commercial property or foreclosure property. There are very few agents that actually get to handle commercial property. When I did my first commercial property, I made sure I had my broker support watching over me, double checking everything I did, because that was not part of the market that I was well versed in yet. And our code of ethics says that we have to perform at a level that the consumer can expect us to be good at what we're doing. I would never attempt property management. My license allows me to be a property manager, but I have absolutely no skills in that area. So just because we have a real estate license, our code of ethics says we have to be competent in any section of the market that we are actually attempting.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And I know in the title of your presentation, you have Realtor in caps. And my question is, like, is there a difference between a realtor and a real estate agent?
Absolutely. A realtor, and in fact, it is in our code of ethics, is that we have to say who we are correctly. A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors. And a real estate licensee is someone that has their real estate license. Realtor is our trademark. When we do it, it should be in all caps. And we don't have the ability, because we protect our trademark, we don't have the ability to say, I'm a UP Best Realtor Educator. I can only use Realtor in conjunction with my name, Stephanie Jones Realtor. You won't find Log Home Realtor because that is not a correct use of the trademark.
Perfect, thank you. And anybody else who has questions for Stephanie, she's totally open to just taking them as they come.
And it's interesting you asked that then, because 12 in the Code of Ethics is just that. We have to be honest and truthful in all our dealings. Oftentimes in realtors, you will see the alphabet soup after their name. And those are designations that we work hard to earn to prove that we have an investment in our education. We want more information. And once we have earned those, we have to maintain them in order to be able to continue to use the alphabet soup after our names. You cannot advertise if you are a broker unless you are actually a broker. And there are a ton in Michigan, beyond code of ethics, there's a ton of advertising rules. And those rules say that you have to have your brokerage in every ad you do. You have to have the name of your brokerage. Your name can't be bigger than the name of the brokerage. And you have to have the brokerage's either address or phone number. And that is strictly a consumer protection issue, so that if a consumer is mad at an agent for something, they know where to go to complain. They know where our headquarters are, so to speak. And that is very important in our advertising, that we make sure and include that. Those are all of the duties to the public. And above all else, whether we're dealing with clients, customers, public, or each other, Article number 1 says we have to treat people honestly. It is unethical for us to actually lie. I think it's sad that that has to be in our code of ethics, but it's there, and it's there for a reason. So then we move on to duties to other realtors. And I actually want to read Article 15 because it's very short. It says, realtors shall not knowingly or recklessly make false or misleading statements about other real estate professionals, their businesses, and their business practices. So when you're interviewing agents and you're trying to get them to say bad things, or you want to know, are they going to ditch the other person that I'm talking to? A good ethical agent is just not going to engage in those conversations. We can't talk about other people's business practices. And that is one of the things that our code of ethics binds us to. On the flip side, I think most of the agents that we have in the UP are very good at doing this. But if the agent is so willing to talk trash about one of their coworkers or competitors, how do you know that they're going to keep your confidential information secure and confidential? So I wanted to highlight to the public that we don't talk about each other in a negative way. We may say nothing, which is absolutely okay, but we don't ever want to get into that position where we're bashing another agent or their business practices. Commissions are one thing that people always want to ask, and commissions are a negotiable item. A brokerage will set the commission, and an agent may or may not have the ability to change commissions. So that's a conversation to have with the agents that you interview, but we're not going to say, yes, but they only charge such and such, or they're going to charge you more, because we don't talk about each other's business practices in that way. We can make general announcements about our business. We can blanket a neighborhood with, hey, I'm looking for homes in your neighborhood. I have buyers under contract who are pre-approved and would love to be in your neighborhood. Anyone thinking of selling? We can do that to broad spectrums, but we can't interfere with the agency that anyone else has. Article 16 is probably the driving force in our code of ethics, and it says that we can't engage in the practice or take any action inconsistent with the exclusive representation that someone has with another agent. So buyers may be calling around trying to get information and get a little bit frustrated with agents that they call, because the first thing we all ask, or at least the first thing we should all be asking, is, are you working with another agent? Because we don't want to interfere with someone else's relationship, None of us have a business that's built on stealing clients away from someone else. And if you have an agent, call that agent. That's what we're here for. If your agent's out of town, there's someone who is covering their business, I promise. There is a, I think, fairly mistaken belief that if I really want to get the best deal for a house, I better go and talk to every listing agent that's out there. But that listing agent can't give you any additional information. A buyer's agent, who you have under contract, who you have committed to working with, and who is committed to working with you, may be able to find out more information. Maybe they know something about the house. Maybe they know how many offers. But a seller agent can't tell you what the offer is on a house or what one of the offers is, unless the seller has told them in writing to disclose. And potentially a seller could go ahead and they'll write their listing agent and say, you have the ability to disclose that we have received 2 offers. They are both above list price. And that might be important information for a buyer's agent to have, because if your buyer wants to write an offer that's below list price, it's not even going to be included. It's going to be included. It's not even going to be in the running. A lot of times buyers say, but I want the seller to write that they are rejecting my offer. And there is nothing in contract law that says a seller has to reject an offer in writing. But there is in our code of ethics the ruling that a listing agent has to respond in writing that your offer has been presented. I know a lot of times, especially when there's 12, 13 offers, it gets frustrating for buyers because did they even look at my offer? But know that most of us are doing our job. We're laying out in various spreadsheets what these multiple offers look like, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that our sellers can make the best decisions. One of the things that buyers want to do is they want to write what's called a love letter. And buyer love letters, you can find it in some online things will say, you've got to write a letter and send a picture. There is a lot of times that a listing agent will not include that because the potential for there to be any civil rights violations or discrimination practices based on that letter are just too high of a liability to put our sellers in. So at this time, we are telling people, don't write the buyer's letter, don't give the picture, because an agent does not have to present that as part of your offer. 2 of the other things that are in our code of ethics are just kind of in-house things that we agree to handle any monetary disputes or behavior disputes through the process. Now, people come up and they say, well, I think that someone was unethical with me and I'm mad and I want to do something about it. The Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors office can facilitate for any consumer how to fill out an ethics complaint. And the consumer has a right and the ability to file a grievance against an agent that they were involved in. And so it is a very good tool for the consumer to have, that they have the ability to be heard and find out if there actually was something that was unethical on the agent's part that they dealt with. Do we have any questions yet?
I'm not seeing any yet. Does anybody who's attending here on Zoom have questions? I know I did have a question. Are these points available online publicly? Is there a place where people can go and review them?
Well, luckily we have Google. So if you Google National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics, you will be able to review all 17 of the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics are divided up into the articles, and then underneath is a standard of practice, various ways things have been shaken out over the last 100 years. Our Code of Ethics was in place before most state laws most states had laws governing our behavior. So that is absolutely available to the consumer. And it is good to hear. I think most of them can ask their agents too. We should all have copies of everything.
Yeah.
So it is available, and if anyone wants a copy, I can easily get it to them if they don't want to Google, but Google's faster than I am.
I just looked it up. It was very quick. I found it. I hope it's the right one right away. I'm posting it right here in the chat. So
And the code of ethics is something that the National Association of Realtors Board of Directors makes adjustments to every year. So every year we are voting on new things and new aspects and honing those code of ethics to the behavior and the issues that we're dealing with right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I did notice it does say 2021 code of ethics.
One of the big highlights is in 2020, we enacted Standard of Practice 10.5, which says that we shall not engage in any hate speech or discrimination in anything we do. So we are definitely holding ourselves up to a higher standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Mickey Wood says she's loving the info. So thank you, Mickey. If you have any questions, definitely ask them, because Stephanie's right here and she's a wealth of information. Or if you have questions about anything else that's related to real estate, buying a house, she's right here and ready and willing to answer.
One of the other things is people ask what the difference is between an agent and a broker. A real estate agent, just that licensee, has completed 40 hours of class time and has taken a state test, and now they're a licensee. A broker, an associate broker, has completed 90 more hours of education and passed a state test and has at least 3 years experience in real estate. So that associate broker has definitely gone farther to increase their knowledge and training and provide you with a better experience. I think, because I think the more education that an agent has, the better they can deal in these real estate waters that are, at this point, rapids. I'm taking on Frida's outdoors. We are definitely not canoeing down a gentle stream in the year that we have. In my Facebook memories, I noticed that 2 years ago, we were talking about that shortage, and the shortage of homes is national. But part of the problem is in 2009, after that market collapse, we saw that a whole lot of builders were not building those missing middle homes that we so desperately need. And while our population numbers may not be changing, we've transitioned from families of 6 and 8 to 3 households of 2 and 3. So that those households need more homes than a family of 6 or 8.
Right, for sure. Okay, I do have a question here from Mickey Wood. What would you suggest are the top things to do other than making the highest bid to getting a home in this time of multiple offers?
Well, I think, Mickey, that's a really great question. And I do have a magic 8 ball. Usually the answer on that one is, the answer is murky. But the best thing that your agent can do for you is to have really good communication with the listing agent. Before we write an offer, the best thing to do is ask, what does the seller need? Does the seller need to have 7 days after closing that they can get out to move to their next house? Great, let's offer that. How can we help the seller in purchasing the house? Maybe they need to take occupancy on a certain day, or maybe they want to make sure that they can take the rose bush that they planted when their mother died. what can we do to make that offer more appealing to the seller? And that's going to require good communication between the buyer's agent and the listing agent. And as much as we are all competitors, I will tell you, for the most part, we're all co-workers. I have absolutely no need to sell my own listings or have my buyers buy my listings. I don't care. My buyers are going to buy something, my sellers are going to sell something, and most of the time there's going to be another agent on the other side. And if I work well with those other agents, then that will go better for my clients. I think buyers right now need to have a buyer's agent. You need to be pre-approved, and Frida said it, and you've been reinforcing it. We are so lucky to have fantastic local banks. So those pre-approvals by local banks are a necessity before you go out and start looking. Best practices for the state of Michigan, they are asking that we not even show a house to someone who isn't pre-approved.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. And I guess I had a question here about, like, if you were a buyer and kind of looking to engage a realtor, what would be some of the top questions you would suggest asking when you're trying to figure out, well, who do I really want to work with?
Well, like we say that a seller should interview agents, so should a buyer. And I think to have that buyer's agent gauge where they are on the knowledge spectrum and what their needs are. We have a handy dandy flow chart that we give to our clients that says, first you do this, then you do this. A buyer's agent who will ask you what your needs are. Now, a lot of times we will ask, what do you need in a house? And it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, and it has to have a garage. But realistically, the most important thing for them is that they want to be able to host family gatherings in their house. And when we ask that question, we find that, that buy level that has everything you just said you wanted for really doesn't do well for having a family gathering and a large Thanksgiving dinner. Mm-hmm. A lot of our millennial buyers, and there are a lot of millennial buyers right now, their concerns are, I want a fenced yard for my dogs. So it's more than just that list of what's important to me in a house. It's having your buyer's agent work with you to find out what's important to you in the living area. I think Frida said it when, this is the walls and the location. And some of the things inside you can change.
Right.
But what is it that you want to do in that property? And I think first-time home buyers, it is a lot of times the feeling they want more than the 3 bedrooms, bath and a half, garage. It's I want something to call my own. And with interest rates as low as they are, it is a really good time, but you have to have patience. And you have to go into things. When I'm working with buyers and we're in a multiple offer situation, I will ask them, there are acceleration clauses and things we can use to make our offers look good. But I ask them, what's the price that you feel comfortable losing this house? So if somebody else pays 155 and you were only willing to go up to 151, you know that you gave it your all. And right. That's your choice. I think also people have to get realistic on what their dollars will get them. And it's a little bit of our frustration. It's like I pre-approved for 70,000 and I want something in walking distance of the beach. That might not happen. But this is only your first house. The first house you buy is the leverage you will use to eventually build equity in that house that will send you to your second house and then maybe your third house. And if you're really good with your money and you want to build generational wealth, you're going to do what you can to keep that first house as a rental. So it brings in income each month for you, and use the equity in that house to buy the house that might be more along the lines of a forever home.
Right. So thinking long term, and that's another thing that I think Ryan Lemire was talking about, kind of thinking long term. Mickey has kind of a kind of comment here. I was thinking that a letter with an offer might bring some attention to it. Interesting info that you gave on that. So you were saying this is something that shouldn't be done.
Correct. Right now, the National Association of Realtors has issued position papers that we shouldn't be doing buyer letters. And realistically, if you are rejected, was it because of your buyer letter? Because could it have been any of the protected classes? Oh, they chose the family with the little child over me, the single mom. Those are the things that we don't want to get into. Ultimately, a seller will pick the offer that resonates the best with them. It may not be price, it may be timing. So I think there are other things besides a letter that we can do. Right now, unless that house is vacant, a buyer giving 5 days, 3 days, 7 days after closing to the seller for them to move into their next house can really ease that for them. We're seeing in other parts of the country just crazy things being offered. And I'm not even going to say them out loud because I don't want to see those in offers up here. But we do want to concentrate on the fact that we're working with houses and we're working with people. And anytime you have that, you're dealing with a lot of emotion, and not getting deals put together is very frustrating. And know that it's just as frustrating for your buyer's agent as it is for the buyer. And I'll tell you, sellers and listing agents are frustrated too. This is just not the type of market that I've ever seen in a couple of decades.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I want to go back to my canoeing my gentle stream.
What would you say would be the top ethical concerns coming up in a market like this?
I think just that honesty and having things available to all people in a fair timeline. If your buyers are getting very frustrated with sellers who list a house and do not have a review date, but then they get an offer and they say, oh, well, if we got one, we're going to get more. We're now going to look at all offers on Saturday. List the house with those parameters from the very beginning. I think ultimately everyone just wants as level a playing field as they can get.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Are there any more questions that people would like to ask? I know we're kind of running a little bit more towards, or anything that you would want to add, Stephanie, because you could go, down
anywhere.
A lot of these, right?
I guess I really want to remind people to come back and join us at 3:00 for our panel discussion, and hopefully have some time to come up with some questions. Because that question and answer period is really important. I do want to say, I call it, and I'm not the one that coined the phrase, it's a national phrase, but Pop-Tart agent. I'm very anti Pop-Tart. And a Pop-Tart agent is the agent who you call an office, you don't ask to speak to anyone, and you just say, I want to go see Fair Street. And that agent says, sure, I'll show it to you tomorrow. That's a Pop-Tart agent. Our ethics and the way we should be doing business say that we need to confirm that you're not working with another agent, confirm that you're pre-approved, and really what we want to do is establish relationships. So there are buyers that are a little bit afraid of those relationships, but it's the thing that's going to help you get that house, is to have someone who is advocating for you, who is working on your behalf. When you are calling the listing agent, that listing agent is working for the seller. So you're walking through the house with the listing agent and you are, I love this house. This is the best house. Oh my God, we're going to offer $10,000 over list price and not have an inspection. And I love this house. That's all information that that listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to share with the seller. So when you are looking at homes that you're looking at with the listing agent, they're not representing you. Now, just one little thing that we're seeing more and more, because technology has taken over our lives, but can you imagine being in a pandemic without Zoom? So I guess in some ways we're lucky for some of the technology, but we're telling buyers when they're going through houses, let's not talk about this house while we're in the house, because so many people have Ring cameras, have nanny cams, trail cams set up in the house because they want to make sure someone's in, they want safety, they want all sorts of reasons. And the law hasn't caught up with behavior yet. In Michigan, it is illegal to audio tape anyone without their written authorization. So a listing agent can't even say there are recording devices in the house. That doesn't satisfy the law, but we haven't seen the lawsuits started on that yet. So we do tell buyers, let's not talk about the house while we're in the house unless we're saying nice things. But you also don't want to say anything that could be part of your future negotiating strategy.
Super interesting. It's something I wouldn't have thought of. I mean, who would think? But in these days, you're absolutely right. Oh, right.
I think most of us agents all just hope we're not someone that shows up on the internet falling on a front porch on a Ring camera or
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stephanie, it's been so wonderful to hear from you. Just all these things that we don't even think about really until we get into situations like this. But it's I think such a great thing to be aware of going into a real estate transaction, that yes, there are ethical guidelines that a realtor needs to follow and to be aware of those. And, you know, I think that these things are going to make everybody's life a lot more smooth if we all are on the same page with them. So thank you so much. And I understand that you're joining us for the 3 o'clock panel. So I'm super excited for that.
I am, but I thought of something from your first session. So when you're talking about how can people contact me, I grabbed this.
Awesome. Okay, because that was my next question for you. And I'm going to just type it here in the chat box.
Call me, text me. You can also email me and check out my website at stephaniesells.com. info@stephaniesells.com is my email. But I just thought this would be easier than anything else.
That is awesome. I'm just getting this into this chat box now so people can contact you. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. And looking forward to having you join us at 3 as well. And do stay tuned if you are watching here for our next presentation. We'll start at the top of the hour. And this is how to save on closing costs and finance your home repairs with the Freddie Mac Match-Up Program and Construction Loan. I think it's an awesome topic. This is Anthony Zorza, the Senior Mortgage Loan Officer at Embers Credit Union. I think this is going to be a fantastic presentation as well. Stay tuned for that. And then the following one is the 3 o'clock question and answer panel.
We will see you at 3.
Yeah, and one big shout out here to our sponsor, UP Home Inspection, offering quality home inspections throughout the Central and Western UP. All right, see you at the top of the hour.